throw this off on the other screen so I can see what the hell I'm doing. Alright, so we want B update. We got initialize. I think we also want our pre-update, don't we? So I'm going to go ahead and close down the editor here and add our pre-update. That's an easy thing to miss. Almost had a pretty bad bug there. Almost forgot to set that to call up pre-update instead of update. Yeah, I think my biggest issue when I was using Unity was the just everything. But that's how it always is. One of the big things was creating objects at runtime. Like a lot of editors, I'm used to just writing my own engines and all that stuff. Like I wrote my own engine in college and everything for running games. And they always kind of work the same way. And a lot of the engines that are in the industry, like Unreal 4 and Unity and all those things, they're made for designers. They're made for non-engineers to make games. And as an engineer, that it's funny. Just I always want to like do things in code, and I'm always fighting the system sometimes because I'm like, no, just let me have like an initialize function. I don't want to drag something onto the damn screen. I want to write it out. It's easier, and so it's always funny. I was always like, how do I just make an explosion at runtime? And it's like, well, you have to have the asset for that thing. And in your level and blah blah. I'm like, I don't care about that crap. I just want to call a function. Why is this so hard? Alright, so let's get this thing hooked up. Alright, so we got update, we got B, pre-update. I'm just going to throw all these in here and comment it up and all that stuff. This is going to be kind of not only an example, but something that we might be able to copy paste to get started with. So we got initialize, pre-update, update. Alright, so we need onCreate, onEnter, onExit, onDestroy. Yeah. So initialize, destroy, update, pre-update. Yeah, it's create and destroy. Enter and then exit. Alright, so we got a comment here. Let's do initialization. So throw this up there. So I'll have initialize and create and destroy is kind of up there. And then we'll need update. Your updates, and then we need our comment or state transition. Like here. And what we're going to do just to start with is have all this stuff kind of just hello world itself. Yeah, that's one of the big problems when you have a lot of projects um, that all depend on the same logic and code. Is one person changes something in their development branch, and then 3 weeks later merges it into mainline, and it breaks a different project, and nobody's ever going to test that. And you're just like, where the hell did this change come from? And it's somebody in like another country broke your shit, and it's like, how are you could angry at them for like, how could you do this? We told you not to do this. But at the end of the day, it's like, no, the problem is the workflow sucks, and people just shouldn't be able to break each other like that. You need to solve that problem. Nice. This is initialize for default state. This is on create for default state. And this is on destroy. Yeah, it's going to happen, and I don't know. Every time people like start yelling at each other for stuff, it's kind of like yelling at people for using different, tabs versus spaces, or 4 spaces versus 2 for whatever the hell. You can yell at people all day, but if it's not checked by the build system, it really shouldn't be something you give a damn about. And on a lot of those projects, when you got multiple things going and something breaks something, it's like, well, what are you going to do? Like, stuff will just always be broken. So, that's your life. That's your life. It's ending. One build break at a time. Yeah. All right, so we got this kind of example thing that's going to at least tell us what's going on. So we want to work on the actual movement controller. So the movement controller, we've got the initialize, we've got the pre-update, and we've got the update. We might also want to add a create and destroy real quick here, just to keep consistent. So let's just go do that. So we'll do an on create and an on destroy. Yeah, the blueprint system's pretty cool, and I think they just added it so the blueprints actually compile down to C++ later and stuff like that. But it's definitely a step up. I didn't work with Unreal 3, but I know a lot of developers who are, when it switched from Unreal 3 to Unreal 4, were like, oh, thank God they gave us C++ back. Unreal Script was just garbage or something. I never used it, but I can at least relay the complaints of other people. But so far, I'm still trying to grok the whole thing. I don't know, Regathian. That's a tricky one. Whenever you have a shared team in a corporate setting, I've never seen it not get totally dumped on. Because it's really easy to like make the argument in a meeting or something to be like, well, this sounds like something that could be useful to everyone. And then the shared team is starts off being like, oh, well, that's our mandate, we should totally do that. And then like 6 months later, they're like, oh my fucking god, we can't do anything without breaking absolutely everybody. I hate my life. Somehow the build is always our fault, and then everybody quits. So I don't know. That's a tough note. Hello, Nils Noah, welcome. I'm working on getting some blueprint stuff hooked up for my movement controllers. What am I making? I am working on Dashkin. I think I've seen your name before. Maybe. But it's a fast 2D platformer, or 2D 3D platformer, with this little dude right here, Bitey. And this is a test level. But right now we're working on his movement so that we can get this little guy moving a little bit better. Because right now he's kind of we want him doing more interesting things than just galloping around. So I'm working on organizing the movement system so that I can do that and control it. I hated on how he looked 2D. Well, I know Adam has been working on this guy. I can zoom in real close here, but we'll be doing a lot more with hand-painted normals. These are like auto-generated normals and all that sort of stuff. And he's going to look cooler, especially when we get all that stuff in there. But we know we've got lighting. You can kind of see that tiny little shadow that's there. And of course, this is like a test level, and all that. We'll get it looking cooler later. One step at a time, though. Thank you for following, Nils No. Welcome, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I definitely like to just kind of talk. Alright, so let's fill out the basics for this guy. So we got the initialize, the pre-update. We're going to want the on-create and on-destroy. On-destroy. Alright, so that's looking good. So let's add our comments. Initialization. Say update. Yeah. Where you worked, you solved it by having the team for the shared stuff be responsible for things they break. Result was we got a lot more meetings before design changes got started. Like I have worked on shared teams. I have worked on the game team when there's been a shared team and all that. And just working on a shared team is pretty tough when you got multiple projects because you're always breaking something. And the big thing is just to have really good test cases for everything. Because it's impossible to test everything out properly. And like good test cases and automated deployment and stuff. The other thing that's really tough is if teams won't take drops of code you need them to take. You want to see if two actors have the same interfaces implemented. So is there like a... Well, I think if you just cast them to a class, you should be able to do that. So you should be able to just cast the thing to whatever you're looking at. So like, I could just say like, cast to Dashkin movement object, and yeah. So if you just like shove something right into here, it'll show you if the cast failed, and I think that'll do it. A cast to the interface? Well, isn't that going to be a class that you're implementing? Or maybe I'm not understanding the word interface that you've got there. Alright, so in this initialization code, I'm actually going to need to do stuff like, you need to call add movement state, and I'm going to have to add all the different movement states that I want here. So the question is, should I throw these inside of a list and just have like add all movement states, and then add like a variable over here, which is like variable type could be the movement states variable, and it's going to be like, let's see, it's movement state, like a reference, and I want it to be an array. I haven't done anything with arrays, so how do you do for loop? It's a for each loop. I've never done loops in blueprints before, but alright, here's a for each loop on all of the movement states that we could like define, and then we could call add movements state here, and we could, yeah, okay, that's pretty cool. Alright. So we could just have our movement states declared as a variable in here that we've got, and I could actually put this inside of not a variable here, but inside a variable on the class itself, and then it could work. Alright, Ildfuglin, thanks for sticking around and contributing. Good luck with all your stuff. So you're actually talking about the interface, like in C++. Oh, it's actually inside of blueprints, is what you're saying. Okay. So what the hell is an interface? A blueprint interface is a collection of one or more functions, name only, no implementation, that can be added to other blueprints. These blueprints are expected to implement functions of the blueprint interface in a unique manner. Well, they probably have a specific blueprint class thing on there. I don't know if you'd be able to do that very easily. Because as far as I've seen in C++ land, blueprints are like other things, and you have to actually call into the blueprint and like get the parent C++ class and all that stuff for like UObjects. And that's been kind of ridiculous. Like inside of C++ land, if I go to my movement controller, like for me to actually clone some of these, where was it actually? It was like my asset manager thing. The data manager, I actually had to see like if the actual class name was blueprint, and then you actually cast that to a blueprint, and then you can get the parent class of the blueprint and stuff like that, which might get you what you want. Crazy stuff like that. Well, why don't I just see if I can do this? So I should learn about blueprints and all that stuff. So you've got two different interfaces is what you're saying, right? So you've got like interface A here, and then interface B. Or you have one interface. Alright, so you have one interface and you have two actors that have the... Are they actors? Or are they just blueprint things? So if I made a blueprint class based on an actor and I have actor A and actor B is what you're saying. If we go to actor A and we say like the parent class of the actor, can we change this? How do we change it? Is it class settings? Parent class should be interface A? Guess I can't do that. Well, how do you make one of these actually class settings? Parent class is nothing. You right click on the interface, create child blueprint class. So we have the parent class interface A. Interesting how it doesn't actually show up in the drop-down there. Let's see if I can just make it do what I want anyway. Like, can I just interface A? No, it just can't do it. Well, that's kind of annoying workflow. Alright, so I'll get rid of these two. So I get a second child. Alright, so if we have child A, which is I guess the variable name will be that, and the variable type is going to be this interface A child. And we'll make another variable here, which is child B. And child B needs to be an interface B child. Interface A child 2, sorry. Thanks for following BannockBurn1314 as I go off on a tangent here. Alright, so we have both of these variables, and you're saying, how do I know if they actually are the same? Can I like cast to interface A? So I guess, yeah, you just do that there, you know, shove it in there and see if both of them, see if it worked. You got food poisoning. Oh, that sucks, dude. I hope you feel better. Yeah, so I guess that's how you'd cast it. I'm not sure what else you're asking about. But you only want to cast once? Well, if there's two variables. Let me see. Your specific question was. I'm pretty sure just doing a cast right here would do it, and if cast failed, returns true. If it can't without casting the actor, which you don't want to do. Well, the only other thing you could do is hack it in there with. I mean, what's the problem with casting it, right? Like, if it's just casting, then it's not super expensive or whatever. Like, I mean, I guess it's kind of annoying. It's all good. You got it. I don't know. Shoot. So we'll just forget that ever happened. All right, you got it. What'd you do? You just was there another function that was hiding? That wasn't obvious that you finally found, and you're like, there it is. All right, I think this movement state variable should be on the class itself. All right, so I'm gonna. So we're going to change this add movement state to. I'm kind of doing the same thing, but I don't want to have to do crazy stuff. I just want to like have an array. Actually, I think doing this in data is probably the easier thing. So, yeah, we're just going to do it how we did it with the AI there. We're going to throw for our movement object, we're going to have a public T-array of. What do we got in the state group? It's a T-array of subclasses of states here, kind of like that. So it's going to be this Dashkin movement state. So we need a U property on this, just like this. And then we're going to have the initial state. It's not going to be a T-array. That shows you what's possible in accident. Well, that's the best sort of things. I don't have to understand what I'm doing to be helpful. I don't know. Sometimes you just need to stop thinking about it for a little while and be frustrated with somebody else, and then your brain figures it out for you. All right, these are our state variables. So we call initialize. We're not going to be doing anything necessarily. Add movement state is something we could have, but we probably don't need any of these functions here. Just the set next movement state. Get the current and set the next and all that stuff. We'll have this return a bool for set next movement state. Actually, let's just have it return the movement state that's going to be next. No, that's stupid. We should just return a bool. Alright, return null pointer and return null pointer for those. So we have the T-array stuff there. Let's make sure it actually shows up. B initialize. Alright, so we're gonna have to do the same thing that we did inside of the logic state group, which is go over these things, and we're going to want to clone all of them. So it's going to be for every movement state in new states, found default state. Yeah, we got to do ridiculous stuff. Well, that's pretty much what we're doing right now. It's not super complex as far as I understand it. I'm just adding more crap because I can. Alright, so we need our Dashkin movement state, our clone. Our clone is going to be this guy. And we need our initial state. In default state, yeah, so we need another default state here. Basically, we need a private T-array of movement state pointers, and this will be M states. This will be a U property with nothing on it. And then we'll get a U property here for default state. Let's make sure we initialize this to null pointer. Let's see, we need to set next movement state to the default state. Otherwise, I'm actually going to have this do some crazy shenanigans to start with. Alright, so if we didn't find the default state, if not found default state, and it doesn't equal null pointer, then we're actually going to go ahead and clone the default state and assign it as the first state. So we need default state. Dashkin movement state. Alright, movement state. State default. Movement state, new object, state class. This movement state, we'll make another one here. We'll just say mDefault state equals that. And we're also going to do states.add default state. So the question is, how do we determine which state is that we've got? I mean, we could have a T-map of movement state pointers to movement state pointers. It's basically the static classes looking up the normal classes. do that. Because we need a lookup here for like set next state to something. This is not state stuff, sub high. This is just default state get default object. Yeah, so we're gonna need a lookup here. So we need our tmap of we'll get our state lookup stuff. So you'll reference it in Blueprint by the static class, and you will be able to look it up. Look up the actual one that we've got. So I'll just do a map there. And this is initial state, get default object. And then this, alright, cool. So let's make sure that works, and then we'll set up our state inside of our blueprint. And this will nicely clone all that stuff for us. And I guess Bannockburn, like the whole game, it's a platformer, right? So movement is going to be the entire thing. So if we're going to spend some time doing stuff, I'm pretty sure it's going to be for a platformer. Alright, doing a lot of so Dashkin movement state.h. That's what we need. I think that's the only thing that it's really complaining about. Well, that is just a horrible copy-paste error there. Alright, so we'll get next movement state, get the current movement state. Alright. I guess are we calling set initial? No, we're not. So we can get rid of this function too, and the add. So yeah, there we go. Kind of all over the place, I'm guessing. Gotta love all these cave drawings I was doing earlier. Stupid pictures of Whitey sliding into a wall. Whatever works. I'm still trying to get my head around exactly how I should be using blueprints and using when I should be writing stuff in C++, when I should be writing stuff in blueprints, when I should be doing all that. So a lot of this is just me kind of flailing around, not really knowing exactly what I should be doing, because I've only been working in Unreal for the past like 5.5 months here. And a lot of that time was not spent making anything in blueprints. A lot of that time was setting up just basic stuff like, you know, graphics and file utilities, all sorts of random garbage like that. Import-export pipelines for paper sprites. Super fun times. Yeah, it was like the first 2 months of all this stuff was like just get input, get logging, get threads working, get like some hashing and encryption stuff working, get game clock and audio and graphics and physics and make plans, and it was like we spent an entire like 2 frickin' months just getting nothing done. And we only actually started working on stuff like actual entity setup in Unreal. We only started doing that in April. That's how game development goes. A whole bunch of nothing. Well, that's pretty much what I'm doing, is I'm slowly moving a lot more stuff over to blueprints. Alright, so this is how you would set your states. Is what are these? Did I declare something wrong here? Because we've got states here, and they're part of logic. And these are part of default, which is called movement states. Oh, that's the variable I added to the class, isn't it? Yeah, there it goes. It's gone. Alright, cool. Alright, so we don't have to do anything here for the initialize. So we can just have some info logs here. So on pre-update. And then on update. Alright, so that should do all this. So let's hook up our uncreate, undestroy, on all that stuff. So our binding movement object initialized, so we've got everything created. We'll set the next movement state. Actually, we just want to set our current state, so we're going to want m wanted state and n current state. So let's initialize those. Alright, so what we're going to want to do is for every movement state and in states, let's see, we have b initialize, so we're going to want to call b initialize on our actor, on our self. Then we're going to want to call initialize on all of the states. Yeah, so be initialize on all those. And then we want to call on create. So it's going to be on create here. Well, we don't need on create and on destroy to have an actor here, do we? Like, we already have our actor. Well, we might as well. So we'll call onCreate on this, then we'll call onCreate on all of these. And then once those are called, we're going to call setNextMovementState default state. And that's where like the on enter and all that stuff is going to happen. Alright, so b pre-update, and then we'll do if m current state does not equal null pointer. Current state pre-update delta t. So if m wanted state does not equal m current state. Alright, we're gonna have to do transition to wanted state. At the top here, so we need a function for that. Right, so we're going to reorganize this later. One week to set up the environment, 2 weeks for engine stuff, 2 weeks for level design, 1 week for animation, 2 weeks for polishing. So your full game should be out in 2 months. That's what it takes. So well, it depends. We've made games in 24 hours before, and things like that. Not me and Adam, but me and other people. And it's just a completely different approach. When you decide we're going to spend, a long time working on a project, you set up a whole lot of stuff. For instance, like I've got a game that I made. in 24 hours. Let me just pull it up. Like, I made this game in 24 hours. Me and 2 other guys. Which I'm on my controller. It was a multiplayer game. Works in web, on Fire TV, and on PC, and supports 6 players on Fire TV. And you could like pick your character. So we actually played this in the office quite a bit. It was pretty fun. And then it's just a really simple game where I'm the girl on the left. You just try to get the ball in the hole, and 24-hour game, pretty fun to mess with. And we wrote the whole thing from scratch in JavaScript and wrapped basically a WebKit window on all the platforms in order and hooked up the input. But yeah, you can definitely make them in no time at all. Ah, motherfucker. That's right, own goal yourself, stupid red team. Ah, shit. I give the red team shit, but then they're fucking beating me in my own game. I wrote your AI in 20 minutes. Alright. I like how my best player is the AI guy on my team. Shh. Get over there. Alright. 10 seconds. Oh, those sneaky bastards almost got me. Yeah, that's right. But yeah, you can make games like that in no time at all. This one's just a little bit more complicated. And by a little bit more complicated, I mean a hell of a lot more complicated. Alright, so we got this transition to wanted state. So if our m wanted state does not equal null pointer, and m wanted state does not equal current state, return Alright, maybe I should do this the opposite. If m wanted state equals null pointer, we'll return. If m wanted state equals m current state, m wanted state equals null pointer, return. Or maybe I should just do it this way. Alright, and what we want are state machines can be kind of tricky, and I like to make them a little bit more robust than probably most people like to make them. So like for our state machine here, let me see, is there our logic object, Yeah, this is the correct logic. But basically, when you switch between states, it's important to remember that maybe inside of the onCreate or inside of the onEnter, you enter another state. You're like, oh, I entered the jumping state, but we're dashing, so I should go from jump to dash or whatever. Inside of the actual onCreate, things can go crazy. And the same thing, like if you call onEnter, like if you're inside of an update and you switch to another state, like you can actually call onEnter and then call onUpdate on that state, so you don't have to like wait a frame to get the update. You can actually like jump straight over to another state and update it on the same frame, which can cause some infinite loop bugs and stuff like that. But I like to support it because let's say that you actually want to go into another state. If you have to wait a whole frame for that update tick to happen, then that can cause kind of phantom errors. Alright, so we need updating state. We need a bool here. And I guess we also need pre-updating state. Alright, so during our pre-update, we're going to do the same thing. And this should not be pre-update, it should be update. Alright, so if m updating state, if m pre-updating state, and current state, pre-update. So we have all this sorts of stuff going on here. So that should transition us to our wanted states. Should we transition to our wanted state before the pre-update would be something? I mean, should we do both or just one? I would think the pre-update would be the place we'd want to do this, actually. God, we might want to do it on both. We might even want to do like the update and then transition to the state right immediately. Right there. Kind of like if we just do it like that. But I'm trying to think, like, if you always thought the pre-update happened before update, if you transitioned and we didn't get the pre-update, you might do weird things. So I think probably the safest bet is to do it inside of the pre-update after the transition to wanted state. Nah, it's better just to do both and just be like, well, it's gonna happen, so it's gonna happen. So we'll do it like that. Heading off to play something, Adam? Alright, well, if you want to check out whatever Adam is working on,